So I have this racist guy who likes to point out the fact that when Europeans were building this, Africans were living like this, and you're supposed to be such a great people. Now, this is a typical home in Africa back in the day, and still some today live like this. But he fails to realize that he's not comparing apples to apples, he's comparing apples to oranges. Because this is the typical home of a European during the Middle Ages. So he likes to point out this and compare it to this instead of comparing it to this, which was built during that time frame, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or even this. You see, what this person fails to realize is that civilizations have always built themselves up based on whatever their needs were. Most civilizations in Africa during different time frames had no desire nor requirements to build the same type of structures that Europeans built at the time frame that they built them. They built according to their needs and according to their culture. It does not make one group better than the other. I could have easily pointed out the buildings, the constructions that was going on in Egypt. I could have pointed out the fact that in the Nubians and the Sudanese were building pyramids long before the Egyptians. But what does that all matter? And what does that all mean? It just means that people built things based on what they desired to build. It doesn't make, technology is not something that makes you a better person. It doesn't make you a smarter person or anything of the sort. If you were living in a society, and in that society you didn't have all the diseases that other societies had, then your medical practices may not reach the same level that the other society reached in the same time frame, simply because there was no need for it to go that far. The same thing when it comes to building construction. When you're living in subtropical areas, then there is not a need to build out of stone and build out of masonry and cement in the same way that people who are living in the mountains of Europe and on the coastal Mediterranean areas, there is absolutely no need. So there's no reason to compete. And these are some of the things that keeps division amongst people, is the fact that when we compare histories of one group of people to another group of people, we base it solely on technology. We base it solely on their barbarism, because all of them, whether we're talking about Africans or we're talking about Europeans, their cultural societies all had slavery. Their cultural societies all dehumanized women and saw them as property. They all did relatively the same thing until we grew and stood on the shoulders of each society, each culture, and developed a higher sense of morality. And because of that, we get better. But it is a regression when we try to compare technologies in order to say who is superior. The Chinese came up with gunpowder. The Europeans used it to make guns. Does that make the Chinese better than the Europeans? No. Does it make the Europeans better than the Chinese? No. One group saw it as a way of celebration. Another group saw it as a tool that can be used for weaponry. And as time grew on and interconnections happened, all those technologies merged. Because if you went to the majority of major African cities today, they are just as gleaming and glorious as American cities and European cities. And unfortunately, some of them are just as nasty as European cities and American cities. Some of them are just as crime-ridden as European cities and American cities. So technology doesn't make you a better person. How you treat other people and how you treat yourself is what makes you a better person. So to the racists out there who seem to think that if people live a certain way, that denotes their superiority or inferiority, you're just demonstrating that you have your own personal inferiority, and maybe you should work on that. But y'all have a great day, and remember always, you should free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.